On Rogers TV, we have a reality show like no other. It has a great cast of characters. Some you may have even helped land the role. Each episode has something different. Plans are devised, decisions are made, votes are cast, and money is spent. It's local reality TV that you won't want to miss. And it's exclusive to Rogers Cable customers. Catch your municipal council coverage on Rogers TV. Visit rogerstv.com for broadcast details.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
This is Rogers TV, Grey County.
Hello and welcome to this special edition COVID-19 Rogers TV program dedicated to our community response to this pandemic. My name is Carol Merton, and before I introduce our guest today, those of you who watch the program know that I like to spend just a few minutes at the very beginning to say thank you. So today I would like to read an excerpt from a letter that was sent. The author is Allison Wines, and this letter was actually sent to me by Francesca Dobbin, who is the Executive Director of the United Way Grey Bruce. So, there is an invisible group of people who aren't being recognized, who are working intensely to keep the world turning, to make sure that those on the front lines have the support they need, and those at home have something to go back to when we get to the other side of this. Who are you? You're the HR teams working 80-hour weeks to start workforce planning from scratch, redeploying team members, trying to think of something, anything, to preserve jobs. You're the CEOs of charities writing new budgets so you can help keep the world with funding that has evaporated overnight. You're accountants and bankers restructuring finances and debt to help small businesses stay afloat. You're trade managers negotiating frantically to get hand sanitizer and face masks into the country. Your consultants supporting clients through massive change, unsure if you'll get paid for your work when it's all over, but doing it anyway because it matters. Your hospital administrators running payroll for the nurse that just clocked 30 hours of overtime. Your communicators trying to find the words to explain a crisis the likes of which has never been seen. To your organization staff, and to your community. My words to you, you are not invisible. Our message back to you is this: your contributions are greatly appreciated. We send to you a most heartfelt and sincere thank you for what you are doing. And on that note, I want to also send a sincere and heartfelt thank you to my two guests today who are willing to join me to talk about real estate. I am delighted to welcome Tim Hudak, who is the Chief Executive Officer for the Ontario Real Estate Association, and Jennifer Tedford, who is a real estate broker here in Grey Bruce. Thank you both for joining me today.
For sure.
So, as I said before the program began, you guys can just take the show and, I'll just sit back. But I'm really interested in how the real estate situation is, not just locally, but across the province. So I'm wondering first if you can just explain a bit about your role, how long you've been involved in real estate, and then where are we going? How do people buy and sell houses these days? Who'd like to go first?
All of that in half an hour, eh?
Yeah, we can do this. Or we'll do another show.
Jennifer, why don't you start out?
Okay, well, my name is Jennifer Tedford. I'm a broker with REMAX Grey Bruce Realty. We have offices in Owen Sound, Chesley, and Tara. I've been in the business about 13 years, and I work with my husband/real estate partner, Dave, and we've got team members, Kelly and Christine.
Excellent.
And I'm Tim Hudak, so I'm CEO of the Ontario Real Estate Association. So we're almost 80,000 members strong across the province of Ontario, from Owen Sound to Ottawa, Kenora to Niagara, where I'm from. I'm a recovering politician, I will confess. I spent 21 years as an elected member for the Niagara area and had the honor of serving as the leader of the Ontario PC Party. So lots of time spent in beautiful Grey Bruce.
Yes.
Back hanging out there in Kincardine this past summer, enjoying the West Coast view across beautiful Lake Huron. My wife's family had been investors in the area. Well, they summer cottage investors. They had the summer cottage in Point Clark area. So I'm here in my capacity as a CEO. We play a lot of roles supporting our brokers like Jennifer, our agents like David, as well as, importantly, consumers who are interested in purchasing or selling real estate or property. And real pleasure, Carol. Thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. I'm just wondering, from my understanding, and of course, I've had the pleasure, of course, of being affiliated with Jennifer. She was very helpful to us in the past. But I need to understand the difference between a broker and a real estate agent before we go further down the road. What's the difference?
A broker, we take a few more courses, and we take some more courses. We have a little bit higher level of education, and we're allowed to do more on our own without supervision of our broker of record.
Okay, all right. So you must have seen a difference since COVID in how people are selling homes, or are they even concerned about what are they going to do? Springtime is a busy time, my understanding, for home sales. What's changed in the real estate market?
You going to answer that one, Tim?
Well, you know what, Jennifer, why you do the local, and
okay.
Happy to sort of do a province-wide and add on to anything you say here.
Okay. Locally, we're still, if we had this interview in the beginning of May, I could tell you a bit more about the local real estate stats. I can only go by what we did in March, and we only had basically 2 down weeks. Sales were up in March, and as were the average price. Now, certainly, we're still seeing a reduction in listings, of course, due to the situation, but there are still some sales. Basically, I call them sort of exceptional circumstances where people need to buy and sell for whatever personal reasons that they have. But yes, houses are still moving right now.
So your advice to people is don't hesitate to consider selling your home, even if it's not exceptional circumstances, that you are still open for business, but business may be done in a different way. Is that correct?
100%. We are considered to be an essential service, but we still have the rules and regulations that the government has put down that we must follow. We try to do everything virtually if we can possibly do it that way, just to keep everybody safe. But most importantly, we follow those Government of Ontario guidelines that have been set out.
So just in a summary, before I go on to Tim, just walk me through to explain, what do you mean by virtual? So I'm interested in selling my house and I need to buy a house. Normally, I would connect with someone and I might go in and look at a house or several, and I may have open houses, but that's not how you operate now, correct?
Correct. Open houses just don't happen right now. Right. As far as if I was to have a buyer come to see me, the first thing is we would sit down and we would have a long conversation. Why are we doing it now? Is this an exceptional circumstance? Is this the best time for you to be buying a house? My last 2 transactions were people who have already sold a house. So it's pretty important. They need to buy a new house or else they're going to be homeless, right? I also encourage them to go back to their lender and talk to their lender, because banks are kind of assessing risk right now and they're sort of tightening up their belts a little bit, or they can be. So I encourage that person to go back to their lender, get a new pre-approval to see exactly where they're sitting. financially. And then once that happens, we can do all the paperwork virtually, electronic signatures, not a problem. And we basically go through each home on their wish list by virtual tour. Hopefully the realtor has got a 3D virtual tour on it. It makes it a whole lot easier. And we go through the homes together over the phone as if we were together physically. And we look at the pros and the cons of each home. Once they've narrowed down their list, then we encourage them to do a drive-by, check out the neighborhood, check out the schools, maybe make arrangements that they could view the outside of the home. And move on from there as far as an offer.
Tim, is this the pattern that throughout Ontario people are telling you that they are following?
Yeah, for sure. And that, we as the Association of Realtors are strongly recommending. So, first again, Carol, thanks for having me on. It's great having an experienced realtor and broker like Jennifer Tedford on board, and certainly REMAX, Grey Booths, Realty, a highly respected brokerage. So it's number one thing that she's talked about, get advice from a realtor who knows what she's talking about, right? You're talking about the biggest financial purchase that you're going to make in your lifetime, whether it's where you raise your family or you want to get a cottage on Lake Huron. Like, don't fool around. So definitely in this environment, get that advice. To the first part of what you asked, Jennifer, so province-wide, very similar. 2020 was looking at a very strong year for real estate. There's a lot of exchanges taking place. Prices were heading up depending on the region, but they were heading in a positive direction. And the economy was looking good. And then there's a chart I use when I'm doing some webinars, basically shows the rise of COVID and then the big fall at the same time in real estate transactions. And it's understandable. People were very concerned. Realtors would have cautioned their clients to say, hey, let's not risk doing an open house when COVID is spreading, or there might not be that many buyers in the marketplace right now. So it's good to get that advice. And we certainly saw what happened in Grey Bruce across the province as a whole. In some areas, seeing real estate exchanges decline 90 to 95%.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Same with showings. And we did, and I know Jennifer and REMAX very much aligned with this, ask all of our members not to do open houses. We went to the province, and, Lisa Thompson, we're proud to say she's our minister. She's a Huron County girl, covers some of your viewing area. She's the minister responsible. So she went for bat for us. Got realtors dedicated as essential services. Quebec didn't do that, other states didn't do that, so that was a good thing. But it's not business as usual. We're asking our members to counsel clients. If something can be put off till after the COVID crisis is over, please counsel your client to do so. This should only be, real urgent transactions. Jennifer gave some great examples. Somebody's bought a house, they've got to sell their own, they could lose their down payment or their savings, and they might be homeless, so they don't buy a house, or a divorce or a death. But try to keep it to only those matters. And wherever you can, we've advised our realtors, use virtual practices. Avoid in person where you can. Lisa Thompson did listen, and she closed down open houses that are in-person open houses across the province. Jennifer gave you a good example of how a virtual open house can replace that. So we've given those types of advice to our members who have followed it, especially REMAX, to make sure that realtors put the public health and safety first and foremost, and business can wait till after the state of emergency.
So, Jennifer, from your experience, you mentioned doing a virtual tour. So do you go in and do that tour, or do you have the people who are interested in buying or selling their home actually take those images for you?
Well, that's a problem. When you go to list your house, invariably you have to have some sort of professional come in there. Whether I can't do these 3D virtual tours, so the photographers are going to have to go in there. Home inspector may have to go in there if there's a sale. So that's one of the things that we talk about when discussing whether to list your house or not. There is the potential that someone outside of your immediate family will be inside the house. And that's part of that important conversation we have at the beginning, is if you relist your house now, there is a potential this could happen. The virtual tours are done. It's called a Matterport. It's a little camera. The fellow brings it in, and he takes a 360-degree picture of each individual room, and then he just moves it from room to room to room. So it's great for other people to see it, but you still need that individual to go in the house and do that virtual tour.
So would they need personal protective equipment? Like how, they're obviously going to be in a home touching surfaces, although trying probably not to. how do you follow the health unit restrictions and precautions?
Well, you know, when we do have to enter a house, which we really try not to do, okay, we do everything that we possibly can, but home inspectors and photographers are considered essential services as well. So if this was to happen, most of them would don masks, they would wear gloves, and we usually tell the homeowners to leave everything open and on so that we don't have to touch anything.
Right.
So this is very absolutely, unless we absolutely have to. Otherwise, we try to do everything virtually if possible. And like Tim says, if you don't need to sell right now, then probably now's not the time. Let's wait till they loosen things up. But unfortunately, you do have divorces, financial situations where people are, these exceptional circumstances I talk about, where people are forced to list right now.
And I imagine too, Jennifer, in your area, there'd be a lot of vacant properties and cottages and such, so the risk is lower there. Of course, great question, Carol. Our members do take precautions. And here's a role that your viewers might find interesting too. So a big role that REA plays is to be the advocate, the voice of the realtors and the women and men and families they represent. I mean, Karen Cox from C&Ski Realty in your area, she's our past president, did a hell of a job. And our current president, so she's still on our board, gives advice, and Sean Morrison, practicing realtor from Burlington. So we interact with politicians like Bill Walker. He was a former minister in Grey Bruce. And here we said, you know, we were grateful that Premier Ford put realtors as essential services to help those people that Jennifer mentioned. We did then, in return, promise the government we'd behave like professionals. We would only do urgent transactions and counsel clients to wait. But there are other services that are used by realtors. You asked a great question about videographers, about photographers, or stages, or cleaners, or home inspectors that were not put on that essential services list. So as an association, Karen and Sean and I, we go to bat and we say, look, if they're using those services to do videography of a home for a 3D tour, that's exactly what the province wants. And you don't have to do the in-person tours. People can make their decisions and then go look later on, or if they want to, right? So we did get the province of Ontario to say that it was okay to use those types of services, even if not on the essential list, but if they're supporting a real estate exchange and they are deemed essential. So that's part of the insight of what we do in Toronto on behalf of realtors and clients.
So it sounds like, I mean, in healthcare, we talk about standards of practice, but it sounds like across Ontario, there are standards of practice expected in this COVID-19 with real estate brokers and agents, where there's consistency in the approach to follow the guidelines. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud, and Jennifer will have her comment what she's seeing in Gray and Bruce, but I'm very proud that our leading brokers like REMAX, C&Ski Realty as an independent, that, you know, they were out of the gate along with REA saying to agents, let's put business behind what's going to be good for the public and look after your clients. And we've seen that happening. And now open houses have been closed down and we've moved to virtual open houses. They do expect us to act as professionals. I believe we are doing so. But the last thing of yours, there's also a regulator. They're called the Real Estate Council of Ontario, RECO, R-E-C-O. They kind of act like the police of the system, if you will, sort of like the Alcohol and Gaming Commission, watches for bars and restaurants and gambling operations. So they have the ability to levy fees and fines. They've been given new powers under Minister Thompson's legislation to suspend and revoke licenses for people who don't follow the rules. Our members are doing so, but there is a complaint system if somebody is playing fast and loose with the rules.
Right. So now that we've been into this for a few weeks, actually longer than anyone hoped or expected, are you finding that it's taking longer, this process of buying and selling homes? Jennifer, from your experience, turnaround, I guess, is the market term. I don't know. You'll have to tell me what the term is.
I think, yes, it does take longer. We certainly have to allow extra time and conditions for financing. Things like appraisers. Appraisers aren't going into houses to look at them, to, you know, appraise their value anymore. So we need to allow that extra time for those other professionals to do their jobs in the way that they can do it. So, you know, what used to be a 2-week process sometimes can be up to 2.5, 3 weeks in some situations. Yes.
Yeah. So people need to factor that in. It's that things are different and they just have to allow for that process to unfold. From the people who have purchased homes using this new way, the virtual way, what are you hearing back from them? I guess in the business we call it satisfaction surveys, but what's the feedback?
It's still pretty new, so I haven't had a whole lot of feedback. You got to remember, houses usually don't sell for 30 or 60 days. I think that the individuals recognize the challenge. I think they understand why that challenge is there, and they don't have any qualms with following the rules, but it's just more of a challenge for everybody to deal with. I have one lady that needs to buy a new bed for her new house when she gets it at the end of June, and she's got no place to try out her bed to buy it. So,
no.
Yeah.
So, those are all just learning curves that we all have to go through, right?
Yeah.
I do think, Carol, that you will see a lot of people who are very interested, though, in the property market and buying a home. I just think we've undergone, for good reason, this grand experiment. We're all like lab rats, kept in our homes, right? And, God bless my kids. I love them dearly, but, being a CEO and trying to be a decent husband and a dad and a principal and a teacher kind of drive me crazy. And I bet I know Debbie and I are like this. Jennifer, you were hearing this locally. I think every couple's probably had a conversation during this about what they love, what they hate about their house, and if they want to move, or if you're cooped up in a condo in downtown Toronto, or you want to downsize or buy a cottage, along Lake Huron, a nice place in Meaford or Owen Sound or Bogner or wherever. I think there's going to be a lot of interest. And what we're going to suggest to the government when they start looking at stimulus is that real estate can really help Ontario lead the economic and confidence recovery. I mean, when you buy a home, then you usually make repairs to the home. You buy furniture, appliances, or spin-off jobs in maintenance and the mover. So if we want to get Ontario back on its feet, doing things like eliminating the land transfer taxes for economic activity, that could really help get Ontario moving again.
And that certainly there are lessons that we're all learning through this experiment, but that kind of what you're mentioning are opportunities. It may be a dark cloud, but there's potentially a little bit of silver lining in the future as well. From your perception, Tim, do you think this is going to change the way real estate business happens in the future?
I do, and it'd be great hearing Jennifer's point of view as somebody who has a decade and a half of experience and is a leader. I've just been doing this for 3 years, but my gut tells me that realtors who were ahead of the curve and already had a lot of these tools around virtual tours, great photography, a way to feel like you're inside the house and not being in it, have an advantage in this marketplace. And so as a result, they're ahead of others. I think other realtors will take up these tools. But I think consumers are getting more and more sophisticated. They have a better ability to do more searches themselves. Remember the old days where you'd walk down to the real estate office and, downtown in Kincardine, and you'd look at the pictures on the wall, try to figure it out. The realtor had that Bible you could leaf through. Well, consumers now do much more of the work, and it's probably a good thing. And they'll do more virtual tours now. They say, okay, I don't like the way that looks. Maybe look at this. There's other tools coming along that blow your mind. Like you can look into a kitchen and you can say, okay, what if I had the cupboards changed and an island here and the table was over there? And apps can help you look at that. And then order the furniture too if you want, right? So I think you'll see the upfront work, and then the realtor is there for the really heavy lifting, the negotiating, helping guide that process at the end of the day. That's my guess.
Yeah. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
I consider Dave and I are more of information givers right now. So people come to us and they say, what should we do? What's going on with the real estate market? And that's basically our role. We're not advertising right now. We're just here if people need us. And that's kind of the status quo way we're running until things are more back to normal than what they are now, for sure.
Yeah. So when things are back to normal, Jennifer, do you think, I remain hopeful and optimistic, okay? When things, will you change your practice? And if so, how?
I don't know that I would so much change my practice. I always made sure that my clients were informed, they were aware before we went house hunting, and the same as if they were selling their home. Perhaps maybe we'll still have these heavy conversations in the beginning, to make sure that this is the right time for them and the reasons for buying and selling. I think that what this whole self-isolation thing has done for me is it's taught me to slow down a little bit. And let's not run around at these frenetic paces. Let's just sort of sit back and enjoy what's around us and just take things in. And I think everybody needs to do that, even those who are in the home buying and selling process.
So Tim, from your perspective and across all of Ontario, I can't help but think this must be very stressful for real estate agents, for sure. Just what strategies are being put into place for coping for real estate agents? Because it is a high energy business, right? It is.
And I suspect, watching you across Skype here, Carol, you're the same way. Jennifer is by definition, you got to be a people person. You've got to be a hustler. You've got to be at the community events, know what's going on in the background, know what's happening in the neighborhood, where new buildings are going, what the school is like. And when you're locked up in your cage, it's almost like having your arm cut off. So our members are feeling it, just like hardworking Ontarians are, but they're particularly sensitive because they thrive on human interaction. So what's impressed me the most of doing a lot of teleconferences with our members is how much they care about their clients. Like, their biggest concern is always, I had a family, they're looking to move up, the kids are getting bigger, and their small business now is on the rocks, and they may not be able to do that. Or a senior couple looking at downsizing, the kids have all moved away and everything is suspended. So our members really care deeply about the health and financial wherewithal of their clients. But you're right, there'll be stresses. So one thing we do as an association is we try to assist with mental health, financial planning. Those are a couple of things that we do to help our members. But bottom line is, I've been very proud to see that realtors have put public health and safety first, and they're looking out for their clients and worry about them every day.
I'm wondering about, as we move forward, and there's no doubt there's been financial stresses across the whole spectrum. Real estate brokers and agents work closely with financial institutions. Do you anticipate that there will be opportunities as people move forward? They're not always going to have the money that they could have had because they've been without jobs. So we have about a minute and a half in the program. Who wants to tackle that one?
I'll give that one to Jennifer. I've been talking a lot this last stuff.
Well, that's okay. We're going to have to wait and see what the future brings. Certainly there could be some forced sales or foreclosures down the road. Hopefully there won't be too many. Hopefully the government programs have been able to help a lot of these people. But I guess the general public just needs to know that their realtors will be there to help them should that situation arise. And that's, I think, part of us being essential is to help people through those difficult times. And we will be there if they do need us.
So really what you're saying is it's more than just selling homes. It's moving families and supporting people in big decisions as they go along.
100%.
That's where the professionalism comes in. I want to thank you both very much for being on the program. It's been wonderful hearing the perspective. And I want to thank our viewing audience for joining us today. Please join us again to learn more about resources that are available to you in your community throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. Take care, stay safe, and take care of each other. Thank you.